If you're buying a digital SLR camera, there's a couple of things to consider. The web isn't necessarily the best place to buy one. It may appear to be cheaper, but the problem can come if the camera goes wrong. It's got to be a lot easier to walk into a friendly camera shop and talk to someone than have an email conversation with China. So you've set foot inside the shop. What should you look for next? People always say to me, should I buy a Nikon or a Canon? Well, I'd say buy whatever suits you best. There's really nothing to choose between them. But also don't write off the other manufacturers like Sony and Pentax and Sigma. They all make great cameras. One of the first things to look at is whether the camera suits you. Does it fit in your hand? Does it feel comfortable? This little Nikon, for example, is absolutely delightful. Perhaps a trifle small for me. This Canon is a comparable camera and I'd probably say the same thing. I'm big, it's not that good, I might find it fiddly. But if you had small hands like Jane, how would you get on with a brute like that? It might be just too much for you. The best thing about coming to a shop is you can pick the camera up and you can try it. Act like a woman in a dress shop, try everything and then go back to the first one probably. But you can at least take it in the street, fire a few frames, twiddle the buttons and decide if you like it. The other thing to think about is megapixels. Everybody's chasing megapixels, but you don't necessarily need to. So long as you've got at least 8, you can print pictures sort of yay big. If you're going into 20 megapixels and supersized stuff, are you printing in feet or inches? Most people don't print their pictures at all. If you're buying a digital SLR, I would say there's probably 1 or 2 other goodies you might want to go with it as well. Chances are your camera's going to come with a lens as part of the kit. But for most people, the next thing they'll buy after buying a camera are some more lenses. The focal lengths you need to cover anywhere from 10 out to about 2 or possibly 300 millimeters. This 10 to 20 millimeter Sigma is a fantastic lens. Wide lenses, you can do some great dramatic shots by getting in close to things and using lots of foreground. If you're buying some lenses, make sure you get a lens hood with it. This little scallopy looking thing here, it acts a bit like your hand over your eyes on a sunny day. I don't know if you can see, my eye's probably going to a bit of shade when I do that. That's what it's doing for your lens. If you can keep the sun off your glass, your pictures will be more bright, vibrant, and you won't get the little boo-boo-boo-boos of lens flare going across them. This is a dedicated macro lens. It's for close-ups. There's a whole new world of exciting things when you get in really, really close. It'll allow you to focus sort of that far away, blowing things up massive. The longer focal range here, this one's a 70 to 300 millimeter lens. It's quite a powerful zoom. This will allow you to do all sorts of things like get stuff that's far away and closer, but you can also play around with perspective with a longer lens. You can blur backgrounds, you can do all sorts of exciting stuff with long lenses. If you notice, if I can get the, there we go, lens hood off, this one doesn't have the scallopy bits like the wide angle one. These scallopy bits are to make sure you don't get black edges to your pictures, because if it was that sort of length all the way around, it would encroach onto the image. But with a long lens, it ain't going to happen. A flash gun is well worth considering as well. A proper flash gun, one that fits on the top of the camera. You can swivel the head around and you can bounce the light about. Why would you want to do that? Well, the little flash on the front of the camera, it's fine, it'll get you out of trouble, but it's a tiny, tiny light source and it's going to whoosh straight at you like that. It's a bit stark, it's a bit harsh. With either of these flash guns, that's a Nikon, that's a Canon, but you could buy a Metz or anything else for that matter. You can turn the flash head around, you can bounce the light off walls, you can do all sorts of very useful things. You're also far less likely to get red eye with one of these because the flash is a bit higher above the lens. If you imagine the lens was down there, the further away your flash is from the lens, the less chance you have of getting red eye. Lens cleaning cloth, I nearly forgot to mention it. Wiping your lens on your t-shirt is not a good idea because what will happen is you'll put smeary, greasy marks on there. Clean, bright lenses mean clean, bright pictures. Get yourself a lens cloth. And finally, filters. There are millions of filters out there which you can do all sorts of things with. There's probably only, I guess, a couple that I'd really be interested in. One is a polarizing filter. These are great for darkening skies or increasing the contrast. You can remove reflections and things like that with a polarizer. You pop it on the front, you rotate the glass on the front of the lens, and you can actually watch the effect happening. These work best if the sun's at about 45 degrees over your shoulder. Don't leave a polarizer on your camera though. They cut light out. They make things quite dark, so you could find you're getting some rather low exposures if you leave it on. A grad filter, like this, is a very, very useful tool for darkening the sky. If you've got a bright, bright sky, it might just wash out and go completely milky in your picture. By using one of these babies, you can line it up over the image with this gradation part here over the sky, and it'll darken the sky. Photoshop can't do everything. You have to have data there in the first place, and a grad filter can help you do it. The other one, if I can find it, is the UV skylight filter. Now, there's an endless debate about these things. They're great for protecting the glass of your lens, but that's about all they do, to be honest. Personally, I never ever use them. My thought is, why spend all that money on a beautiful lens with all those rare earth coatings and then shove a bit of glass over the front of it? It's a bit like photographing through a window. However, some people will disagree with me. Personally, I prefer to rely on the lens hood. If you're starting out, I'd say these are probably the only accessories that you should really need to consider buying. You've got to learn to walk before you can run. And I think all of these can help you do it.